Hey, hello, everybody. My name is Philip Palumbo, host of the Palumbo podcast, where we talk to some of the most successful business people to learn about their journey to where they are today and their specific expertise. Today, we have Richie Contartesi with me. He's been running his own business for close to 9 years now, helping increase productivity within organizations. His name of his company is called Next Play. So super excited to have Richie here to talk to us, to learn a bit about Richie, where you came from, where you are today, and to share with us a little bit about your expertise and what you've learned. So thanks for coming on board today.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
All right, awesome, Richie. So what I'd like to start off with is you've had great success so far in your current career. Walk me through when you were younger. Is there something that really hit you or something that you learned that really affected you and or helped you to get to where you are today?
For sure. Yeah. So, as a young kid, I'll share with you a story of how, first of all, how I came up with Next Play and how it completely changed my life. As
Yeah.
going from a kid that failed fifth grade, parents got divorced, contemplated suicide, to earning this ultimate dream that I have, which was to play Division I college football at 5'7", 150 pounds.
Awesome.
And so there was a time in my life when my parents got divorced and I failed fifth grade that I was struggling, man. And I was struggling. The only thing that I loved to do at the time was play football, and I was struggling with football. And I had a coach that completely changed my life.
Wow.
Um, I had this thing where I was wide receiver and I dropped the ball all the time. That's a problem. And so I had this thing where I would drop the ball all the time and I wouldn't drop the ball, and I would cry, and I wouldn't cry because I dropped the ball. It was because I felt like I was letting my dad down. Like I had to really impress him. And so this coach came up to me one game after I dropped the ball and I was all down on myself. And he's like, "What are you focusing on when the ball's in the air?" And I told him, like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about all the times that I dropped the ball, the last few times." Or I was thinking about, what if I catch the ball and I don't know what to do with it? Or what if I drop the ball again this next time and my teammates are all mad at me, or I let my dad down again?
Right.
And the coach looked at me and he was like, "I've watched you buy new cleats. I've watched you buy new gloves. You come to practice early. You stay late." He goes, "I don't care what you do, but until you focus on the ball in front of you, you're never going to catch it." He's like, "Until you focus on the ball in front of you, you're never going to catch it." And then he asked me the question that completely changed my life. And I was down. I was frustrated. I just dropped the ball and it made a lot of sense. And he goes, "Okay, so what's the most important play now?" And I was frustrated, so I didn't answer it. And he goes, "What's the most important play now?" And he just nudged me and he goes, "The next play." And when he said that, I just like started to feel better, like instantly, because I was like, wow, maybe the fact that I dropped the ball didn't matter anymore. Like I had just the next play in front of me that I can execute and move forward on. And over the course of this season, this coach just constantly, every time I was down, every time I made a mistake, he would just be like, "What's the most important play? The next play, let's go, let's go." And I would just get up and I would move forward. And it was like this constant moving forward. And I had failed fifth grade, and this mindset of next play, it was like all of a sudden my mom comes home and she finds a school that I can make up fifth and sixth grade in the same year. And I went from D's and F's to A's, B's, and C's all in this one season.
Wow.
Because this coach just constantly kept me focused on the ball in front of me, and everything that I was doing. And, it was obviously a massive shift. And I realized that I was never actually letting my dad down. I was just learning how to succeed. And so today, obviously, that correlates a lot to what I do in helping people from being stuck and frustrated, down, depressed, to instant action, to instant courage, because there is no failure anymore. There's only the next play. And so once you have that mentality and you can execute it, then the world's yours. Now there's a process to the next play. I'm sure we'll break that down as to what that looks like. But that's the only reason I went from little walk on at Ole Miss at 5'7", 150 to the dream of earning a scholarship and running out of the tunnel in front of 100,000 screaming fans at Alabama.
That is unbelievable, that's incredible, Richie. Actually, I didn't know that about you. I mean, there's nothing better than Division One and athletics and how you developed, and you have this, everybody has kind of a story in life, and that's why I always start with that, right? Especially people that are motivated and entrepreneurs, business owners like us. There's always something that motivates us to get to where we are, to where we are today. For me, there was a moment with my dad. We were sitting at the kitchen table. I was 13 years old, and after dinner was complete, we actually sat at the dining room table. We were just talking, and he put his elbows on his knees and kind of shook his head, and he said, Phil, life really stinks. And I knew financially that's what he meant, but he never said that. But he just seemed really down and out. And like literally the next day, I got my working papers and I started to work. And then I brought that to where I am now as a wealth manager, because one key thing I always say to myself when I put my business together, et cetera, is I just don't want my clients to feel the way my father did, right? When that has a lot to do with making sure my clients don't run out of money. So these climatic points in our lives, it wasn't just about me being as a wealth manager, but it really developed me and work ethic and all that type of stuff. And for you, without that moment, you wouldn't be where you are today in advising people, et cetera. So that's really awesome, Rich. And to play Division One lacrosse, because I played Division One lacrosse, play Division One football, and you said you're 5'7", you're in incredible shape now, even, right? So walk me through, like, how did you become a Division One football player at Alabama?
Well, so it was actually at Ole Miss, but I was referring to just getting the opportunity to run out of the tunnel in some of these big stadiums. So Ole Miss, I mean, we're in the same division, right? We play Alabama every year. Some years they whoop our ass. Sometimes we go in there and do work on them. But I actually didn't go straight to Ole Miss out of high school. I didn't get recruited by anybody. I went to a small school named Jacksonville University. It's not Division I. They don't give scholarships. My first year there, I was redshirted, which means I'm not good enough to play. And then I got cut after the season. And after I got cut, I mean, it was one of those spots where I was sitting in my car and, it wasn't my little league coach, but my dad also really took that next play mentality. And I remember I was sitting in my car and I was like, this is it. I can't even play at Jacksonville University. They don't even exist anymore. Their football program's so bad there's no way I'm going to play Division I. And my dad was like, hey man, you only live once. Like, you have a choice. I don't care whether you quit or not, but I think you're going to regret it if you do. And he's like, so you got cut. What's the next play? So I created a spreadsheet of all 119 Division I schools and the recruiting coordinators and their phone numbers. And I called all 119 and got 0 opportunities. Right after that, I was scrolling on Facebook, and a coach that I had my senior year of high school, him and I just built like this great relationship, got an internship at Ole Miss, and I saw it and I called him and I was like, hey man, like can you get me a tryout? Like, can I play there? And he got me one tryout, moved to Oxford, Mississippi from South Florida. I mean, I've never been to Mississippi. Right. And within 1 week, and then went there and didn't make the team in the tryout. So that sucked. But he went to Coach Ed Ogeron, who was the head coach at LSU. And he was like, just give him a chance. Like, just give him a week. He moved here. And so he gave me a week. And during that week, I just went balls to the wall. Like, every play just was my last play. And at the end, he was like, he said this, I don't think you'll ever play here, but you pissed my defensive line off because I was on the scout team, which means I worked them. And he's like, you got a spot on this team. And then over the next 3 years, I never made the travel squad. I was on the scout team. And right before my senior year, like, the one thing I had to do was get on the travel list. Like, that was the game. And I started working with the kickers as the field goal holder on special teams. And that got my foot in the door. So my senior year, was the field goal holder. So the coaches started paying attention to me more as a receiver, and ended up getting in the top 7, which is what you need to travel and play. And so played in a lot of games, had some catches. SEC catches were at Tennessee and Arkansas in big games. And right before the season, the Coach Houston Nutt came up to me and he was like, you've given me no choice. Like, I have to put you on scholarship. You're going to play this year. And, that just was unheard of. Like, it was rare at that time, and especially at Ole Miss. And I tell this to everybody when I share this story and I do keynotes, was when I tried out, there was 23 guys. I didn't even make the team. When I got put on scholarship, I was the only one of those 23 left. Wow. So that was my football story. But the reason I obviously you asked, but I find it important to share is that every step of the way, I was down, I was stuck, I got my ass kicked. They used to make me do this Oklahoma drill and drill me. Like, it was like, here comes Richie, it's time to crush him drill. And I didn't care. I loved it. But anyways, it was always just next play. It was just always that mentality. And it's the only reason why I was successful. And so now I teach it to others, because I know a lot of people are stuck and I don't want them to be.
An amazing story. It really is awesome personal story that really juxtaposes beautifully into what you do, which is really awesome. Really awesome.
Yeah,
that grit that you need to move forward. So I understand where you got where you are today. And I saw one of your Instagrams that you shared. You said in your Instagram, people ask me why I am where I'm at, and you were in a parking lot, and you showed the parking lot, and nobody was parked in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And I could totally relate to that when I saw him. Like, gosh, this guy, and we just met each other, through the couple times that we talked. I could totally relate to that. I mean, every morning I get in, especially when I first started in business, nobody's in the parking garage, and that's how that's the difference, right? So I want to take your athletic career, your experience, which was incredible. It was all about grit. How did that help you in your business career?
Because I think one of the big mistakes that corporate America, there's a lot of them, but I think the big thing that I brought to corporate America is this system now of accountability. So, you can incorporate, LMSs, you can do all kinds of trainings, you can bring in motivational speakers, which is what I did in the beginning. But unless you're holding people accountable to their potential every single week, they're not going to be consistent. You're not going to keep good people long-term. You're going to have complacency across the board. And so after my football career, I spoke at a high school, shared my story, and one turned into two into four. And over the course of 5 years, I spoke at 450 schools, universities, and high schools, and started speaking with sales teams and started speaking with leaders. But after the events, like I just felt like depressed, because I was I was a good speaker, but I was like, be motivated and be relentless and believe in yourself. And it's like, how do I do that? Like, what does that even mean? And so I knew deep down, like I really wasn't helping people. And so I actually took a break from speaking and I purchased a fitness performance facility here in Vegas. I've always really enjoyed fitness and performance and felt like, oh, maybe I can help people on a deeper level. And it was the same result. Like 6% of people got results. It really wasn't anything different. So I was like, what the hell? So my coach at the time was like, do you see how I coach you every single week and I hold you accountable every single week? He's like, that's why you're able to do what you do so fast and grow so fast. And why don't you do that with your coaches at the facility? And I was like, okay, cool. So I started doing that, and I started learning quickly what the problem was with all of the members. And so the only 6% got results. And the problem was that it wasn't that they didn't know how to do fitness or they didn't know how to eat. There's so much information. It was that they didn't have any accountability. So they're just doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And so they weren't getting results. And so what we found was the number one thing that was holding people back was their focus, and not just that they're not focused, right? Or it was what they're focusing on. And see, when you're not focused on what we say now, which is the play in front of you, the most important thing right now for you to move forward, then you're going to settle for less than your potential. So let me give you an example. So someone will come in and say, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. And it's like, okay, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? And they start sharing like, oh, well, I want to like look better and this and that. And immediately we know that that's not what they want. The reason that they want to lose 20 pounds. So the guy comes in, obviously he said in his mind, he wants like a six pack. He wants to look good. He wants to feel good. Like that's really but because he's always failed in the past, he doesn't believe he can do it. So that's what he resorts to, which is settling for less. Business owners do this too. And so they're focused on, oh my God, I failed so many times in the past, or, oh my God, I'm going to fail in the future, or I'm going to have success and I don't know how to handle it. So they settle for less and give up on themselves. And so once I figured that out, I was like, it's lights out. Like I started working with my coaches very specifically on holding them accountable using a very simple process. They started doing it with our clients. We got rid of all gym memberships and we just started holding them accountable to their potential on their next play every week. That was their only focus. Not that they failed in the past. Not, oh my God, I got to lose 300 pounds. No, what do you need to do this week to be successful? And we just held them accountable to that, their potential on that thing. And over the course of 9 months, we grew by 2,600% revenue wise. We had before and after pictures, multiple coming in every single week. And we completely changed the lives of all of the people that stuck with it and wanted the accountability, as well as my coaches. And after that, I was like, I had an old corporate client that reached out to me and was like, hey, I want you to come speak at my sales conference. And I was like, I'll come speak at your sales conference, but I have this accountability system that's going to change your business. And I shared with him the story and he gave me a chance and he said, let's do it. So for a year, I flew out there every single month and worked with their leadership team for 2 full days, implementing this accountability system. And they had been stagnant for 7 years. And in 9 months, they grew by 24%. And so the next business we implemented it in the second month, they grew 55% year over year. In the first month, excuse me, in the second month, it was 65% year over year. And then we were just off to the races from there. And we're helping clients hire top talent, retain top talent, and ultimately develop top talent. A lot of them have challenges like inconsistency. Oh, like my team's so inconsistent, or they get so complacent, and all that gets eliminated.
Right. So you went from a fitness business, which then transferred into a business program.
Yeah, because there's two components of this. So what people were missing in the facility was accountability, but so were my coaches. So was the business itself. Like the business was struggling. And then I started holding my coaches accountable and they started holding our members accountable. And that's when everything exploded. So it started with that. And then I said, hey, I have this model that I think is really, really powerful. And I think it's what your company's missing. And so we implemented it. And then we took, obviously it's a 12 play accountability system, but we took it and implemented it over a year. Now we can do it in 12 weeks, but in a year, and it grew by 24%.
I want to go back to this, but I want to reverse a little bit. So you started, like you said, when you got out of college, you started to work for somebody, correct? As a W-2 employee?
Yeah, I did for a year and a half.
Right. And then you eventually wanted to just have your own business, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So what I want for my audience, what I want them to hear is, what's that shift like, right? So obviously, instead of doing what you're doing, you could be working for somebody, making a W-2 income, maybe offers you more stability, but instead you chose a different path. So tell me about that mindset that you had that push you to do what you're doing right now and not rely on somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing, I met an author. And so okay, so I haven't shared this story in a while, but I met an author and I was basically with a friend who was building websites, and he goes, dude, try to find people who I could build websites for in a sales role. So, okay, let me backtrack for a second. So I came out of college, I got a sales job. In the first 3 months, I was fired from the sales job. And that's because I literally did nothing that I learned in sports. The second sales job was a Fortune 500 company. And in 1 year, I was rookie of the year. And that's because I implemented everything I learned in sports, essentially next play. After that, I was like, hey, like I just want to go out on my own. Why not? I'm young. I should be able to do this. And so I had a friend who was really, really good at websites. And so I started basically selling his services. And on that, within like the first year, I met this author and he was like, dude, you got to share your story. He's like, I'll help you if you help me with my site. And I was like, okay, it's a $3,000 investment, whatever. Why not? And so I did it. And so I paid my friend to build his site. And in return, he helped me write a book. Long story short, it was awful experience working with him. He was really, really bad, but he got me to get going on writing this book. So that's now this book right here. It took me 2 years, but after I wrote the book, then people were like, hey, I want you to come share your story. But for me, the transition was really simple. I was young and I was just like, I have nothing to lose. And that 1 year experience at K-Force where I went from 0 to rookie of the year, gave me the confidence to be like, I can do this. I could sell. So
that's where it all started. You just went on your own, like the business you have today.
Yeah, I know. Initially, my friend was building websites, and so he needed somebody to help him find people who like opportunities, right? So I basically was his sales guy, and so that was the business, and I did that for about 2 years, and then once the book was done, transitioned into my business today, which is what it is today.
So it's interesting. So when you mentioned a little bit about before, so obviously the self-help industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? We all know that. And the thing about that industry, there are a lot of people that purchase products from these industries are vulnerable people in many ways. They're either underperforming in their career, they're not where they want to be in their career. And then you have, let's say, people like Tony Robbins of the world, right? Brian Tracy's of the world. And they all have incredible content and incredible education to really help people. So that's a great thing. But what I've always found, and you nailed it, right? What you said, what I've always found is that, yes, people will go to the seminars, read the books, but are they executing, right? So it's almost like, I never forget this manager used to work at Merrill Lynch. I think he shared this with you before. He's an old timer, and I sat down with him. I said, what do I need to do to succeed? And he told me 1 or 2 or 3 things. And then he took out a blank piece of paper and he just drew the Nike song. He goes, you just do it, right? Just do it. Which for you, it's hold yourself accountable, right? So execute what you're learning, right? I mean, take the time to learn what you need to learn to succeed, but then you have to execute on that, which essentially is being accountable. And not accountable over a 2-year period, 1-year period, 6-month period, but over a weekly period. So don't forget about what happened in the past. Forget about what you think is going to happen in the future. Let's just focus on the next play, which is the next week. And that's what you're saying. And that's why, Richie, that's the difference in someone taking this great content that's out there that guys like Tony Robbins of the world deliver, you deliver, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, may God rest his soul, who was incredible. Right. The key thing with those guys is having a system in place to hold yourself accountable, and that's going to make the difference. So I want you kind of went macro on me in terms of the system of being accountable. Tell me what you mean by being accountable in terms of examples of what you mean by that. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I want to lose 20 pounds, which I do, by the way. But let's say somebody wants to lose weight as an example, right? So, what does accountable mean to you?
So personal accountability is actually not a thing. That's like self-discipline, or another way of saying it would be personal responsibility, right? But personal accountability is not actually possible. And so you can have self-discipline, and you can take personal responsibility for your actions and the things that you do. But accountability is an external force. And the reason it has to be an external force is because throughout a week, throughout a day, you're going to have moments where you don't see your potential, whether it's in a long run, in a short run. And so you might be holding yourself accountable to, you might say you're holding yourself accountable to doing something. That's really just being self-disciplined to do things. But when you meet with somebody every single week and they work with you to take a look at what your stats were for the week, or in the business world, what your KPIs are for the week, did you execute last week's play? And then the rest of the times making adjustments. So that first section, and I'm just breaking down a meeting to you, that first section is, let's look at game film, which is what were your stats for last week, right? And did you execute your play? And then now let's make adjustments. What are the adjustments that we're going to make? And then what's your next play for the following week? And that's the process that we walk people through in 60 minutes, and we break it down into an agenda. But that's a weekly thing. If you're not doing that every single, you can't do that with yourself. You can't. You'll never, you can't, you could sit there and try to do it, but I promise you, you will not make decisions based on your potential. And over time, you will have self-doubt. You will lose track of things. You'll forget. You'll get sidetracked. You'll get busy with a bunch of stuff you have going on, and then it just will fade off and it won't happen. And so that's the power of having somebody, we have licenses now, like licensees, right? So like people are trained to be able to do this, because there's a shitty way of doing accountability too. And so that's why companies don't talk about it. Organizations don't talk about accountability because it's very negative. So the flip side of that is what we call next play accountability, which is extremely positive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, right? So if you take, again, wealth management, I see so many people managing money on their own. If you look up any statistics, forget about just listening to what I would tell you, just Google it, right? And, so many firms out there, whether it's Morningstar, S&P, there's so much research out there that the do-it-yourself investors make so many mistakes as it relates to their investment strategy, because like you just said, they don't have somebody that's coaching them. They get emotional. Markets get volatile. They second guess their strategy. They have too much cash. And all of these things over time really hurt the growth of their money. And it's simply because it's very difficult to do it on your own, especially when it comes to investing. There's so much noise day to day when the markets are open, minute to minute, that it really causes people to make a lot of mistakes when it comes to their money, right? And the problem with that is, we all work so hard and you're saving your money and you're looking to grow it over time, but all along the way, you're making these mistakes, doing it on your own, not working with a professional, thinking that you could do it on your own. Maybe you're trying to save on fees or whatever it may be, which I get, but those mistakes can cost you a lot over time. And it's the same exact thing that you're saying as it relates to business. So that accountability, Richie, that you're talking about, it translates into all these different businesses, which is super, super important. I want to ask you, in terms of, you sit down with somebody, right? You draw up a game plan, and I know how my life is. I'm sure same with you. You're like, great, here's my game plan right here, written out, hour by hour, minute by minute. The week goes by, and it just doesn't get done, or parts of it doesn't get done because things get in the way, life gets in the way, right? Phone call happened, client needed you. Next thing you know, you're on the phone with that client for an hour, which is great because that's what you need to do, service your clients. So what type of advice can you give people listening when you have a great game plan, but then all of a sudden, you get caught up and you start to drift?
I mean, you got to make audibles, right? The greatest quarterbacks of all time are the greatest audible callers, right? Peyton Manning and Tom Brady go up to the line of scrimmage and they read a defense. So throughout the week, that's why we don't do day by day. It's way, way too hard to do it that way. It's got to be week by week. Think about it this way. So and I'll use football as an example since we're on that. If you're thinking about the week ahead of you, right? Like Michigan, and so think of Michigan and Appalachian State. Do you remember that game by chance? If not, no big deal. But okay, so it was a massive upset. And the reason it was such a big upset is because Michigan was thinking about the game 2 weeks away instead of the week that week, right? So you're going to have things that, and then they lost the game. They lost. It was the biggest upset because they were not focused on the team in front of them.
Right.
So you're going to have audibles. You're going to have things that happen, right? But where the magic happens is in that adjustments period. So for example, in football or in lacrosse, right? You go back and you watch game film from that previous game, and then you spend time making adjustments. Here are all the adjustments that we're going to make. And then you go you go out and you implement those adjustments. And it's the same thing. Like over time, you're going to get better at what your priorities are and what things you're okay with getting off track on and what you aren't. And that's a skill that's developed. And there's hundreds of them, right? So for example, like the clients we've to this point have never had a client not renew, because it never ends. Like there's always the next play. There's always the next progression. So, it's like it's how good are you at making adjustments and then calling the next play? You know what I mean? So for you, it's like you'll learn and figure out, okay, is that a bigger priority than my play? Yes or no. And then you'll learn to make adjustments based on that. Because there's times where it's like, I've got to execute this, but I have to handle this first. And so you might only finish half of it. And that's why the old way of accountability doesn't work. Cause it's like, did you do it? Yes or no? You didn't do it. Why? It's like, dude, shut the F up. It's like, here's why. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do moving forward. Right. How do we get better moving forward? So that's the whole concept, is constantly moving forward. And that's why, like, that every single company that we worked with, they bring their teams together, and we can look at their revenue and say, in the next 90 days, you'll 5x the investment, because it's so simple, because everyone just gets really, really laser focused on what they're doing and held accountable to it every week. It's not rocket science.
No, it's not. I mean, a lot of things in life are not rocket science. I always say that.
Exactly.
It's consistency, it's the focus and the grit that'll move you forward, which is my next question to you. So all these companies you work with, the different successful people that you've come across, in your opinion, what makes one person like next level successful versus others that are successful but kind of middle of the road?
Well, you're asking me. It's because they're focused on the play in front of them. but here's an example. Like, would you agree that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time?
It's like a different caliber. It really is.
So this is the objection that I get from an audience before I start talking. I don't need accountability. Like, I'm good. I make millions. Like, I literally just landed this morning. I posted the picture on Instagram. I worked with the group. Like, their top sales guys are making 7 figures. Like, they're the real deal. And I've already have texts from them this morning. Like, dude, like, I can't wait to implement. It's like Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, right? Meets with not anymore, with Bill Belichick every single week, whether they won a championship or not. He was in Belichick's office every single week to preview game film, make adjustments, and make the plan for the next week. Every week. So if Tom Brady needs it, the question you have to ask yourself is, do you?
Absolutely.
Like I did. I spent $72,000 last year on coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I have 3 people holding me accountable. So I more than, whatever X'd my investment a lot, but that's my belief. And that's what's worked for me and the people that agree. So I guess some people, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Totally agree. I'm friendly with this. I'm friends with this guy who's best friends with Tom Brady, who his son plays on my son's lacrosse team. And I was having a conversation with him.
Nice.
One thing I asked him was, tell me about Tom Brady. I mean, what is he what's he like? And he said, Phil, goes, one way to sum it up. He said, and I always said this in life. I always said in life, whatever you can't control, don't worry about it. Whatever you can control, do the best you possibly can. That's what I always said, right? And ironically enough, Tom Brady told this friend of mine, whatever you can't control in life, don't worry about it. Whatever you can control, perfect. Whatever you can control, make it perfect. I didn't say that. I said, just do your best. But he's like, make it perfect. And when you think about Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, and everything you just said, I mean, there's no doubt that is his mindset 1000%. We know how he eats. We know how he trains. We know how he thinks. We know how hard he works. So he really does. And you really think about that as business people who are listening, like that's how you really should go. That's how you really should live your life. Whatever you can't control, like don't worry about it. Because what does that do?
Yeah.
Create anxiety, right? And people start thinking the past, right? The past is not real anymore. The future is not real. The only thing that's real is right now and whatever's right in front of you. So whatever you can really control in life, everybody should make that perfect. And that's a great way to really simply think about life and what you need to do, really get things to the next level. So, Tom Brady is just an awesome, it's an
I mean, if Tom,
in our lifetime.
yeah, and he sets himself up, like Tom Brady literally says like that he wants to be held accountable. Like he sets himself up, like he has somebody he has to meet at this place to do this with him. He meets somebody at this, and you're talking about the most self-disciplined, self-driven person, has enough money for generations,
right?
But still wants it.
Yeah.
And those are the people that love what we do and love what we offer. There are people that are like, I have success or my team's having success, but we're still struggling in certain areas. And I know if my team gets laser focused every single week and held accountable to that in a positive way, then we're going to explode. So, and they buy in, like the second I do a keynote, the team buys in, but beforehand, but that's, essentially it. Tom Brady, as simple as Tom Brady needs it, do you? If Steve Jobs had the same thing. So, people just don't talk about it because the regular way of accountability, like the way normal people talk about it, is so damn negative. So we just found out a way to make it really positive.
No, that's great. That's good stuff. I want to pivot, Richie, to health, lifestyle, right? Balance. So, you run a business, super successful, running all over the place. You have a family, and you stay in great shape, right? So tell me about your routine in terms of how you stay in great shape, how you eat. Do you drink alcohol, right? So what do you do, right, day to day to stay in tip-top shape?
Yeah. So I read this book a while back called The Morning Miracle, right? And everybody has this morning routine and they do the cold showers and the bath. Like I've never done any of that stuff. I find it to be hokey pokey and a waste of time. So for me, I wake up every day just I don't know why. And there's nothing wrong with this. People are like, oh, you have to be a morning person. Like there's some people that like really do really, really good at night in the evening. So like, you know what I mean? So I know I talk some crap in my video, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not, it's like, there could be some, like I'm out usually around 5 or 6. There might be someone there leaving at midnight and they're like, hey, where's everybody?
Right,
so
right.
Same concept, but I get up every day, roughly around anytime between 3:45 and 4:30. I don't set an alarm. I get up, and within, I have an office space now. So I get up, I wear the same stuff every single day. So right now I'm in a hoodie because I came from the airport, but I have 5 really, really nice custom made, really good material, button up shirt. Actually, I think I have 7 of them. Just like really good material, the black and gold with the brand. And I have 6 or 7 pairs of really nice black jeans. I have a couple pairs of these Chelsea boots that I wear, these black ones. And I literally wear the same thing every day. So I get up, I shower the night before, I get up, I get dressed, do my stuff. I'm in the car within like 7 minutes. and I'm at work within 25 minutes of waking up. And yeah, I'll once I'm at work, they have a coffee thing, and I make a coffee, but I'm at my desk within 30 minutes. So by 5:15 at the latest, sometimes I can get to work by 4:30. Sometimes between 4:30 and 5:15, I'm going. Like, I'm not doing the baths and all the weird stuff. And I'm knocking out my biggest, most important thing of the day. Like, what's my project before anybody gets in? I don't want to be distracted. I don't do any, I try, this is the earliest I'll do anything is like 11 o'clock. Moving forward, like, I don't do any calls beforehand. It's like my best work is done between 4:30 and 11. After that, I'll do calls, unless the client's like, it's the only time they could talk. And so as far as what I eat the same stuff every single day. So in the morning, on the weekends, I eat like this really, really good egg wrap. But during the day, I eat oatmeal with protein powder. So they call it prote meal, and with nuts in it. So it's like, pretty like dense. It's really good. It's filling. And then I always work out like right around this time. I'm not today, because today got all thrown off because I was traveling, but I work out at 11 to 12. And then I eat one of two things: chicken and broccoli with potatoes, or chicken and this other thing that's like a meal prep, basically.
Right.
And then for dinner, I eat pretty much the same two salads, and I just rotate them. And like, that's been my always thing, is I just eat the same stuff, and it tastes really good to me. I just switch up the sauces or whatever. But I think if you're always changing it up, then you always have to change it up for it to taste good. It's like when you don't eat sugar for a month, like, you don't need to eat sugar anymore. Everything else tastes good.
Right.
Because sometimes I've went on this thing where I like ate sugar, and then I ate my old meals, and I was like, this sucks. So now I'm like, but if I'm just eating the same things, then it tastes good to me.
Right.
So that's what I do.
Yeah.
As far as alcohol goes, I typically don't drink during the week. I don't like have a thing where I party. I don't party anymore. I don't go out late anymore. If I go to dinner, I try to go to dinner by 5:30 at the latest. I like to be in bed sometime between 7:45 and 8 at the latest. And yeah, I mean, so Rose and I will have wine together. I enjoy wine. I enjoy an ice cold beer when I'm playing golf. But my days and I went through a stage where I got smashed for sure. Early on when I was like early 20s. But now if I had all my coworkers, we went out one night, and I was like miserable the next day, and I'm like, this is why I don't do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I hope that answered your
Absolutely.
And I only work out 4 days a week.
Really?
Yeah. So I it's about eating, man. Like, I did the thing where I was like squatting 440 pounds, and then my knees started hurting, and I'm like, no. So I'm pretty moderate with my weights, and I just want to look good and be powerful. So I like to do squat cleans, and but my diet's really simple, man. I don't macros. I just eat the same stuff every day.
That's it. That's the best way to do it. Especially like dressing too. It's like, keep it simple. Like Steve Jobs used to do that. I'm sure you know.
Yeah. The same outfit. My team's like,
what's the matter with
they do the same thing too now, because I basically just got them each. They have a bunch of Next Play shirts, but also collared shirts, and I'm like, just wear that. Like, and so they started doing that, and then they got here earlier, and I was like, oh, that works. So
that's it.
There's a trick.
The simpler you keep it, the easier life is, and the more productive you are, I believe. And then that type of lifestyle that you have in terms of eating well and the exercise, has that helped you in your career?
Definitely. I mean, I think it will more in the long run than it does when I'm younger. You know what I mean? Like, in all honesty, like I mean, if I was out and drinking every night, then I would be nowhere where I'm at today, for sure. Right. But like how healthy I'm eating, I'm not quite sure how much productivity that's actually given me. But I will say probably in about 15, 20 years, what I'm doing now will pay off, and I'll have much more energy and I'll be much more productive. I do believe that, but I don't know for sure if it's so much paying off yet. But I guess we'll find that one out.
You're gonna laugh, Richie. So this morning I was in the gym with my friend. I work out with my friend Sergio, and this older gentleman walks in and he's wanted to use one of the pieces of equipment, and then we were using it, so he didn't use it. And then about 3 minutes later, I woke up to him and said, "Sorry about that. And you could use it now." He goes, "Oh, I'm waiting for my client who's in the bathroom." I said, "Client?" He goes. I guess I looked at him puzzled for a second. He goes, "Yeah, no, I'm a trainer." I said, "Oh, wow." And it seemed older looking to me. Anyway, long story short, he looked familiar too to my friend and Sergio. And long story short, he ended up owning a business locally where we grew up. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, now I know who you are." I said to him, I said, "How old are you?" He goes, "I'm 86 years old." I said, "Oh my gosh," right? Then he takes off, he had like a sweatshirt on. He takes the sweatshirt off and he had like a tight shirt on. The guy had arms chiseled. He looked incredible at the age of 86 years old, completely with it. Obviously, he's coaching this guy, his client, telling us about different exercises to do. I mean, the guy, I was so blown away by that. And that's all about exactly what you said, right? Over the long, like what you're saying, like we're young guys, you're young. I like to think I'm young. You eat healthy now, you live a good, healthy lifestyle. Nothing's guaranteed, we know, but over time, it'll play benefits to all of us, with our health. So that's super important. That's why
I think like skin. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. What I was gonna say is, and that's why I think when you think about as business people owning businesses, being an entrepreneur, it's about being the full package. It's not just about being so successful, because if you don't balance your health, your lifestyle, your family, your children, it doesn't add up to anything over time. It's got to be the full balanced way of doing things.
Yeah,
and I know we're not always balanced, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I do want to share this because I think there may be some other people that feel the same way. So there's definitely like a negative look on people who like work a lot. It's like, oh, you need to have life work balance to be healthy and all this stuff. And I don't know if I totally agree with that, because my favorite, like I enjoy I love my daughter. We spend time together, but outside of my family, my most favorite thing to do is to build and to speak, and to like, that is like when people say work life, like, oh, you work so many hours. I'm like, but that's what I freaking love. Like, I love doing this. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So like,
my God, kidding me? 1,000%. I could be reading 24 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, like literally.
Yeah. So like the things I love to do, I love working out. I love working. And then when I'm not doing those two things, I'm spending time with my family. But like, people are like, oh, you need to go on more vacations and you need to work less hours. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, this is what I love to do. And so I hope that me sharing that with someone out there will give them a sigh of relief, and knowing that like, you don't have to listen to all these quote unquote, whatever experts they are saying you need. Cause I did that and I was like, I don't like this. And so I felt like I lost time by trying to adapt to what society thought was acceptable.
I totally agree with you. It's a great way really to leave off together is, as I tell people all the time, it's really about finding the passion, what you really love in life. And when you do that, like you feel and I feel like every single day I'm doing things that I love to do, whether it's my business throughout the day and then go home to my family. I work out in the morning at 5:00. Actually, I get to the gym at 5:15 to be exact. And I start my routine, and everything I'm doing throughout the day, just like we really love and enjoy. And it's a passion. So people have to understand, like you just said, is when you go through life, it's got to be doing things that you're passionate about, that you really enjoy and you love. And when you do that, you get to do that for the rest of your life, and you live a very healthy and incredible life, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So, Richie, a couple of things that I want to just note that you talked about that's super important for people that are listening to really think about. Number one is to be accountable and learn how to be accountable. It'll help you get to the next level. Probably joining or calling Richie to do that would be helpful. I think I'm going to do the same. Two is focus on holding people. Focus on holding people. Don't focus on what the past was. More focus on what the next play is, really what the next week and what you need to do to accelerate that. Not that you failed in the past. That's what's going to happen going forward. It's all about the next play. And it's not, and day to day is tough to do, and being accountable because things happen day to day. But the week by week scenario, like you said, is a good way to go about trying to succeed in your business. So, Richie, I want to say thank you very much for being here today. I learned a lot, right? That's a great thing. I love doing this because I learned from great people like you. So I appreciate that. I look forward to us following up, which we do have to do that. So I'll follow up with you or vice versa. And thanks very much. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to share the message.
All right, Richie. Good stuff. Thank you.
You got it.